What is going on YouTube? Carter here with Edged Mindset. I've got a beauty for you guys today. If you at all appreciate Medford knives, I think you're gonna really like this one. And even if you don't like Medford knives, I think you might actually like this one. So I got this in yesterday, did an unboxing video. I'm not gonna go into detail, wasn't able to use it, so I had to scrap it. So since then, I've had a whole night to enjoy this knife and basically going to recreate the experience. So we've got your standard Medford case right here. I really like these. I like them because they're functional, they're strong, and they're not overly large. You can actually still pack them in regular packing and things like that. So what do we have here? We have a certificate of authenticity, April 22nd, 2022. A lot of twos in that name, but very cool. Here it is, Praetorian T S35 VN Vulcan Tonto with some other stuff. This is, this might be my favorite Medford, even more so than my Praetorian Tie, which was my favorite. We got beautiful smiling little Medford here. That's the closest thing to a smile that Mr. Medford can really do. I think that's it. That's the max smile. Doing the card there. We've got some stickers. No patch this time. I imagine the previous owner took it. And here it is, Praetorian Tie in all of its beauty. Take it in. This has the lightning pattern, which, I know what you're thinking, Carter, you've already got a Praetorian with the lightning pattern in your Praetorian Tie. That is true. However, that one's purple. This one's bronze. Different, believe me, that was part, when I bought this, I was thinking, man, I've already got a sculpted lightning pattern. But I really like the lightning pattern. I think it looks really good. I think I like it more than the Predator sculpting that they do. Second, it is a different color, different appearance, different feel. Third, because this is the thinner tie, it does look different because it's not as deep. It's not as grooved and it's not as intense. It almost just looks like a slight 3D coloration. So in my opinion, maybe I'm just justifying buying another one, but I feel it's different enough that it was worth it. We've got flamed hardware right there. You can see some blues and purples and bronzes, along with the body screws here. Flamed pocket clip. When I saw this in pictures, I thought that this was too much for me. Well, not too much for me, but it put it out of my preference, but I actually really like it. I think it gives it a nice pop of color. I don't think it's too intense. The blues, the purples, I like those colors. Everything is flamed on here. But the most important thing is look at that Vulcan blade, people. This is insane. This is why I jumped on this knife. This is why I didn't hesitate. I just said, take my money. I'll figure out where it comes from later. I need this knife. This is probably the second best Vulcan finish I've ever seen. I've only seen one better than this, that I would consider better than this. You have oranges and reds, and then see how it's darkened back here. You've got these creamy swirls going in here. Very little gray, very little scale coloration. Now, what I will say, I'll do a comparison against this and my full tie here in a minute. I'll pause and grab it. It's just right next to me, but I don't want to keep you guys waiting. I have to go back on what I said before. I was under the impression that the only way to get the truly good colors was on a high carbon content steel, 3V, D2, something like that. But I've since stood corrected. Look at that reds and the purples on this. I have since stood corrected because I have seen actually some of the best examples of Vulcan have been on the S35VN. So the 3V is not necessary. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could a Vulcan blade get any better than this? And I'll tell you how. You turn it around and it's even better. That's how. The non-show side, in my opinion, blows the show side away. Look at all this dark, look at the maroon, like the dark maroon coming through here. And this kind of, the Vulcan finish is like, that's what has me hooked on Medford. It reminds me of like Japanese katana hamones, right? How they're unique to every knife. They're quite different, right? The hamon is actually controlled by the craftsman making the knife, and they have control over what type of hamon it is. But There's also some variance there, depending on the etching. Like the etching kind of brings that hamon to life, brings it out, and then how much you etch it, how much you polish it will affect it. Similar to this Vulcan, this is a little bit more of a, the process just kind of does it, but it makes every knife unique. This knife is, you could argue, is a one of one in certain respects. Now, you could get another Praetorian tie that has this milling pattern, that has this anodization, flame hardware, same blade, same steel, but it's not going to have this Vulcan finish. It's just not. And I don't mean you can't get one with a Vulcan finish. I just mean it's not going to have this Vulcan finish. This is, in that respect, it is unique to me. I'm not going to see another one exactly like this. And it is just an outstanding representation of this particular knife. I'm also really come to appreciate the thinness of this knife. So I've got my Praetorian Genesis here. Put those next to each other. You can see the size difference. Kind of put them butt to butt. You can see how much bigger this profile is. It's definitely a larger knife in terms of silhouette and profile, but the thickness of the tie is actually the exact same, as well as the blade steel. So this is a much lighter knife than the full tie, and it's a much thinner knife than the full tie. It takes a minute to get used to because it is so wide but so thin. When you put it in your hand, it does have a different feel. And I'm not going to lie, the ergonomics on this particular knife, are rough. Medford says this is made for gloved use. I don't know if that's really the case or just an explanation he came up with after the fact, but it does. This is not a conigarius, It does have, I wouldn't say sharp, but a lot of angles. This jimping is intense, but that's what you get with these Praetorians. But they are just built so well. They just are. I find it odd when people complain about the build quality of Medfords and the tolerances and all those things. And maybe that was true for older models, but every Medford I've had, I've been impressed by the super tight tolerances, how crisp everything is, how solid the lockup is. Look at all the engagement you get on this lockup. Look at that. It's like half an inch of lockup engagement on here. Carbonized lock face, no stick. Always really impressed. Now, I know you could say that the designs are maybe a little obnoxious or whatever, but the execution, you just can't deny. Look at that. How cool is that? And this isn't something you can recreate, this finish, this Vulcan finish. You can't recreate this with human hands, not really. These colors and swirls are just outstanding. I'm so glad I picked this up. When I saw the ad, I assumed that the poster of the ad had ran this through some heavy color processing, bumped up the colors a lot, so I was expecting it to come quite a bit duller than what I saw in the pictures. Turns out he did none. He did no enhancement. This is exactly how the pictures looked, and this is my new favorite Medford, possibly. Let me grab my Praetorian tie, and I'll do a quick comparison. You can see the differences in the Vulcan finish. It's a good example, not only of the differences in size between these two, but also how the Vulcan finish can change. Okay, here it is, guys. Here is my other Praetorian, full-size Praetorian tie, and this has the same blade steel. So same blade steel, both are Vulcan finishes, but you can see how different they are. I actually like them both in different ways. I kind of like the gray muted tones on this. It gives a completely different feel, and I think it counteracts with the purple. The purple's a little bit louder, a little bit brighter. And the gray of this Vulcan finish with the touches of rainbow down here, I think actually I like it. But you can't deny this thing is amazing. It's crazy that this is the same steel, same process. It just reacts differently based off of the minor factors involved in that process. So if you take a look at the thickness. Now, one thing that I wish is that I find it surprising that Medford does not create a middle-sized Praetorian. A lot of the other models, the Marauder, the TFF1, they all have three sizes. They have the skinny version, the middle version, and the big fat one. The Praetorian, which is the flagship model, the one that built Medford, I believe only has 2 sizes. It has 2 thicknesses. It has the T, which is the thin version, and it's the thinnest. It's as thin as this Genesis. And then they have the full thick Monster Boy. I'd really like to see an H size somewhere in between, because this one is big and it's pretty cumbersome. But this one does feel a little thin. And the fact that these 2 knives share the same titanium and blade thickness, despite them being considerably different in overall length, is a little odd. I would expect this to kind of have medium thickness, but we'll see. Hopefully Mr. Medford will see this and be like, I never thought of that. Man, Carter, you're a smart guy. And I'm sure that's exactly how he would respond as well. Just kidding. But overall, I really, really like this. So glad I picked it up. Wasn't looking to get a Praetorian T, but when I saw that blade, and the bronze too, the bronze looks good. You can see how it's the same pattern, but it does present a little bit different, because it's not as thick, it's not as deep. Ooh, that sounded bad. Different presentation on the scales. This one kind of has a cool 3D pattern to it. Seems almost like it's 2 dimensions, and then you're like, oh, it's 3D. Whereas this one's a little more obviously deep milled. Or maybe I'm just using that as an excuse to purchase 2 of essentially the same knives. We'll see. Look at the different engagement, though. Interesting that this one here, I wonder if it's just this one's seating a little bit different, and so it's engaging a tad bit more. But these knives, guys, the quality is outstanding. They're just so tight. They fit together so well. Absolutely love them. So that's it. Look at my new Praetorian T. What a beauty. See you guys. Leave a comment down below. What do you think of these knives? Have I changed your mind at all? Have I convinced you that maybe you need a Medford, a Praetorian particularly, of any size? Let me know. Let me know if I've budged you in any fashion. I'd really like to know if that's the case. All right, guys. See you later. Catch you on the next one. I'm out.